I'm Amy Guerin, the Director of Brand and Digital Strategy with AOCS. And there's a few other AOCS staff members in the meeting today. And Ellen Snipes, the Director of Meetings and Exhibits, is here available for questions and will be monitoring the chat, as is Clara Chen, that our Customer Success Manager. So both of them are here to help as well. And we're glad that you could join us to learn a little bit more about how to reach the AOCS audience in a hybrid environment. So for today, I'm going to give you kind of a meeting overview. What does the hybrid look like from that exhibitor and sponsor standpoint? We're going to talk about some strategies for success, and these strategies are going to be, specific to AOCS, so we can make sure that you have a successful experience and show. There'll be discussion at the end. However, if as we go along, you have questions or ideas or something you'd like to discuss, please just unmute and ask, or you can write it in the chat as well. But we really want this to be a benefit to you. So please feel free to participate in areas where maybe you need more information or things aren't clear. And as we get started, everything that we're going to talk about today, and especially these strategies, they're going to be at a pretty high level. And the reason it's at a high level is each of you, even though you're all in the AOCS family, have really specific goals for your products and services, as well as for what you want out of your experience with AOCS. And we're going to keep it at a high level to inform and inspire, but we need to then get specific for you. And if you need assistance with that, you can reach out and we can talk more specifically about, what's your goal, for this year? What's your goal in the next 5 years? What's your goal with AOCS? And then figure out, okay, these are the strategies that should be deployed. And of course, taking your resources into account as well. Also at a high level, and I'll mention it several times because this is definitely impacting what we're discussing today, is the behavior changes. With the pandemic, everything has changed, right? And the way people behave, even with your friends and family, your customers, your business, your coworkers, all of this has changed. Shopping behavior, from personal to business or business to consumer. The way these interactions are shaping are different, and they will remain different. And it's hard to look ahead all the way to May for me to tell you, this is how people are going to behave. And this is how we react to it. But we can talk about the big picture behavior changes and how that impacts how you need to reach out to the audience, as well as how you need to represent yourself to the audience. So just keep in mind changes such as social distancing, masking, people working from home, right? Or working from home and a bit from the office, changes in travel patterns. All of these things are going to impact our strategies for this next year, as well as what we want to do as an exhibit and sponsor. The other thing that I'll probably keep going back to throughout the presentation is that we now have 2 audiences. So we have our in-person audience that'll be on site at the exhibit, which you have experience with, right? You've done this, you've done well. Keeping in mind, though, now that it's not the same in-person audience because of those behavior changes. So these people, the wonderful thing about in-person is that they're there to socialize, they have focus, right? They're at the meeting, there's none of these distractions or other activities they have to deal with, and they can see, hear, smell, and touch. But just going on touch, things that people might have touched previously, they won't now because of those behavior changes we talked about. The way that they will be comfortable interacting with others or interacting at the booth or social events, that's going to be different. We also have the virtual audience, and the virtual meeting fatigue or Zoom fatigue is real, right? And so there's shorter attention spans. There's a lower tolerance. They could be in a different time zone. So some of this could be happening in an asynchronous manner where, they're interacting on demand. And of course, we have that limited sensory experience because they are joining us virtually. So those are the things that will kind of be the ongoing theme is, those goals and plans for that your individual company, the behavior changes in our society, as well as now reaching out to two audiences. And I do realize that the thought of reaching out to two audiences can be a little bit overwhelming because now you have to do two things and you probably don't have double the resources. But there are ways to do this where we can effectively reach two audiences and try to do that in a very efficient way, but yet still have impact. So as far as the annual meeting in Atlanta, May 22, it is going to be hybrid, and we will have presenters presenting live on site, just as you're familiar with from previous in-person meetings. We will have in-person attendees. We will also have remote attendees. So we will have virtual attendees for the live meeting because we will be live streaming all of the presentations. We will also have virtual presenters, and those virtual presenters will be broadcast into the in-person room as well as broadcast out to the remote attendees. So this is your two audiences. You will have both, and it will be a live event. Now, we are recording, so there is going to be also the on-demand aspect, and that actually impacts both audiences. So for those of you familiar with the annual meeting, we have a great technical program, and there's often conflicts. So now the in-person attendee, can attend that event or go to that social event, then go watch the presentations they missed or watch the activities they missed. Same for remote attendees. And this helps with time zones. So there will be the live aspect and the on-demand aspect. And I'll go through that, how that impacts you, because I know right now it's very technical program focused, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. Okay, so hybrid meetings. Just in general, I'm sure you're familiar with the concept, but the reason we're going hybrid is because we can reach a larger audience. So people that could have never traveled to the AOCS annual meeting previously due to financial constraints or logistics or time, they can now attend and interact. And as we talk about the way things have changed during the pandemic, is we may also have people that no longer wish to travel or no longer wish to travel at that time. And to that, another factor that is now coming into play is that people are not traveling because of the concerns over environmental impact. So having this hybrid component is important so that we can continue to reach out to that network and grow. As far as reaching that bigger audience, we do have evidence that that is the case. So in 2020 and in 2021, we had the virtual meetings. And I didn't include data from 20 because registration was free for that event. And so of course we had a much larger audience. But in 21, we charged registration and we did see new faces. So we had a lot of people that we have never interacted with before. A lot of these people were not even in our database. We do not know how they even found us, but they're coming. And they're coming because they can due to the virtual environment that are removing those barriers. So there for you is you're going to see the audience that you had previously, but there's going to be new people in new regions, in new jobs, in new areas that can now also connect with you through the AOCS annual meeting. In order to facilitate that for the virtual component, we are using a new platform. So this one is different than the one that you saw or used in 20 and 21. And it has quite a few features that can be beneficial. And I do realize that no one was 100% satisfied with their virtual exhibit experience in these past 2 years. There were lots of challenges with that. It was very static. We didn't know what would work with the virtual audience. We tried several things, some worked, some didn't. We're getting closer to understanding how to better interact with the virtual attendee in regards to an exhibit. And I think that the platform that we'll use for 22 is getting you closer, because it really focuses on your content as well as interaction points. And we'll go through that in more detail in a moment. Now, I know we're all ready for this. And when I was talking about those new attendees, so we've got those new people and they're joining us virtually. We've also got, our dedicated in-person AOCS meeting attendee. And what's interesting here is while we had all those new people join us virtually, we had several dedicated, always attend the in-person annual meeting, heavily involved in Love AOCS members that did not attend the virtual meetings. And what they need is this. They want this in-person connection, the networking, the sensory experience. So we're looking forward to having those people join us again. And these are pictures from previous annual meetings. And the thing to keep in mind is, again, that behavior pattern change. It's very likely that the in-person exhibit isn't going to go back to looking exactly like this. But the desire for connection, in person, reunion with your friends, your content, your colleagues, that desire, it's so strong. So the spirit and intent will be there. We're hearing from a lot of people that need to be in person is there. So we're going back to being able to have that in-person experience. We know it's going to be different. And a lot of people are using that word new normal, but it's still, I think, we don't know what that is, because we're still so much in flux with what's going on with the pandemic, with how consumer behavior and travel patterns are changing. So we need to keep in mind that as we do this, we're coming back, but we have to rethink our strategy. We can't just come back and do it the way that we did in 2019, no matter how successful that was, because of those differences. And so we've done a great job of hanging in there, of figuring it out, and keeping information flowing. And now we're ready to come back and add the in-person experience. But to do that and to be successful, we kind of have to reimagine and reinvent the way that we are going to represent ourselves to those attendees or to those potential clients. And so to those behavior changes, this was one that was really helpful for me. And so a Nielsen survey, and they surveyed a lot of different things. It was really interesting to read. And this survey was more for your traditional consumer, so not exactly your target audience demographic, but I think that the themes are very relevant. And what they found is because of the pandemic is people had to change, they had to use technology and access information. They had no choice. And so that behavior pattern is definitely different. And people are consuming content in the virtual space now astronomically. It is not the same as it was in 2019. And so you have a much larger audience consuming virtual content. And you also have an audience whose expectations have now changed in regards to accessing that content online. And we need to meet those expectations. They're not going away. So this was another survey, and this goes to meeting that expectation, because you're going to be at the AOCS annual meeting. Why are the attendees there? Why is your target audience there? And in the in-person years, if you will, we find that professional development. So it's the learning, it's that content that is driving people to attend the annual meeting. And this is echoed in other surveys we do, like the membership survey and things like that. This is always coming out, number one. People look to AOCS for information, for content, for expertise. We'll talk more in a moment. This is very important for you to be successful, is to keep in mind why people are here for AOCS. They do also look for that networking, business development. So that's still strong. But content, that professional development, is our primary reason for our audience to be here and interacting with us. And just to show this, to echo kind of that previous survey, is that we are seeing an increase in that engagement. And so when we look at, how people interacted with the meeting content over the past 3 years, is we're seeing that same trend where people are consuming this content online at a much greater scale. So this content is very important, and it's going to remain important. So it's going to be the most important thing for your virtual meetings and your hybrid meetings, as well as for your business strategy as you interact with this AOCS audience, because this is what they're looking for. So to go back to the new platform that we're using for 22, it gives you some tools there where you can post that content that they're looking for. And you can also schedule live streams. And I'll show you some examples of that later on in our discussion. But you could have, bring an iPad with you to your booth and schedule streams and show them your booth. Take them on a tour of the booth. Do a product demo. Open up for a Q&A. So you know that you're going to be really busy, like during the receptions and breaks and things like that. But in that time where people are more in sessions and you have some time, that's your time to interact with that virtual audience. And so there's several ways to do that on this platform. The other way to interact with this virtual audience in the way that they're coming to the AOCS meeting is through presentation of content. So you have your spot on the virtual platform where you can do the videos and live streams, downloads and white papers, Q&A. But we also do something called industry updates. And we did this for the first time last year in the all virtual meeting. And they were more successful than we ever imagined, exceeded all goals and expectations. And so the industry updates are virtual live presentations where we had your company or industry representatives, subject matter experts, give presentations about your technology, about your products and services and the science behind it. So this was good content. It's not necessarily a sales presentation. It really got into the science that our people are looking for. And the audience reacted so positively, because that is how they want to meet you. That's how they want to know about your products and services. So we had good to great attendance of the actual live events. We had some that had, a couple hundred people. We had some that had 20, right, at the live event. But I'll dare say that one session where we had 20, it was the right people. The Q&A that happened was very specific. There was exchange of contact information of, yes, I can answer your question, but I can give you this report, or I can follow up with you. And they were making these very direct contacts with the presenters during the Q&A period. So I almost say that the session with the 20 people was the most successful, because I think it was the exact right 20 people for that session. And so we are going to continue these industry updates. We will have these available for 22, and we are doing them in advance of the annual meeting. So these will be virtual. We'll do them just prior to the annual meeting. And our goal here is to have your information out there, have your subject matter expert out there, get all this great benefit that we saw at the all virtual meeting. But our hope is they're going to reach out and you can say, yeah, let me get you that information. But hey, are you going to Atlanta? Why don't we meet? Why don't you come by the booth at 2 o'clock on Tuesday? Does that work? And then I can show you, right? So we're going to give you this opportunity to make the connections early and convert those during the in-person meeting where you can actually meet these people. I'm just going to show you a few examples as well as the impact. The other good thing about these industry updates that we found is the longevity and staying power. So you're in the session where you had the 20 people, you had 20 eyes on your presentation, even though it was the 20 right eyes. But we post those. So we make these publicly available, even to non-registrants. And we are seeing that people are finding this content and interacting with it long after the event. So you can see, like, this presentation in particular, it hasn't even been a year, and there are almost to 600 people that have now watched this presentation. And that's just on one platform. So we take these presentations, and they're of course available on the AOCS meeting platform for the attendees, but we put them on our YouTube channel, our Facebook channel. And then we've also, some of the exhibitors wanted their presentation so that they could use it on their website or use it to send to clients. And so this says 578 views. It's actually much more than that, just because I grabbed that screenshot. So for these presentations, the live is important. The on-demand is very important as well and very beneficial. This is another example. And the reason I'm showing you this one is because I really loved what they did. They did their live presentation. It's available on demand, but then they gave a download. And so during the live presentation, there's like a chat and Q&A, and you can put the link in there where they can go download some of your content. If you put that, behind give me your email address, right? You're gaining leads. We can then post that for you when we go to on demand. If we have your link, we'll put that in there for you too, so that those people that are watching your presentation a year later could still go download that, and you're still going to be able to get leads. So the annual meeting's over, done, gone. We're already on to 23, but you'll still be able to interact with people if you do something like this. So I just really loved what they did here and wanted to share that example with you. Another thing that we experimented with last year were live interviews. And I think these went really well. We learned a lot, and I think we can do a bit better. But these were done live, and 15 minutes, 10 minutes, where we have it's a science writer for us, an editor of Inform magazine, interview a subject matter expert about that specific product or service. So it's kind of like a conversation. And we streamed those live on the platform, Facebook, YouTube, and I think it went really well. And it was a new way to kind of interact. And I can see this working really well in the new platform where they have the live stream capability that you can use, is to schedule some live streams and to have these, at 3 o'clock Tuesday, we're going to have an interview or a conversation, a demo, a tour, and that takes place at the meeting to get that interaction. And don't be intimidated by that. Your smartphone, your iPad, that will work just fine. And that very real, authentic experience in conversation actually makes people, we're finding, more likely to reach out. It does not have to be this slick, produced type interaction. And it can be short. It can be 5-10 minutes, and you're still getting benefit from that. So just as we've talked about this, is to remember at the end of the day, whether you're wanting brand awareness, you're wanting to generate leads, or you're wanting to make that sale, fundamentally, we have to teach them about your products and services so that they understand it in order to make that conversion for you. So keep that in mind. And also keep in mind, we were talking about, like with the industry updates, is we're doing this prepping with the content so that when you come to the in-person annual meeting, it's no longer hoping people are going to come to your booth. It's them reaching out in advance. And this is an example, and this was from a webinar we did. And I actually have tons of these examples. Is we'll do a presentation like this, and one of the attendees will get in touch and be like, hey, can you put me in touch with them? And that's our goal, right? We want them to come to that industry update or to see your live stream and to say, I need to talk to you, and make that connection. And that's where you can say, hey, meet me at the booth, right? Or they want to meet your subject matter expert, and you're like, yeah, they're going to be there. And make that contact and connection. But all of this, and I'm hammering this for you, is content, 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 and it's your subject matter experts. That's what our audience is looking for, and that's how you can meet them, then start working on the sale. So content is king. There is more. Content's where I'm going to really encourage you to, to put your resources and to emphasize, but there's some other things we can do as well to make sure that your experience with AOCS, that you're really maximizing it. And I'm just going to pause 1 second, on the things we've talked about, just to make sure that there's no questions before we move into these remaining items. Okay, right, so moving on, then we know we got to do content. But there's also some other things that we can do to make sure, because you're putting your resources behind this, to make sure that you're getting a return on your investment. And we're going to talk about how to engage the audience, both audiences, by creating a memorable experience in person and virtually. Talk about the power of outreach, and this is something I think is going to be pretty important. The use of call to actions and multiple touch points to meet these audiences. So as far as engagement and creating that experience, we need to do this in person and virtually. And again, I don't think you can go back in 22 into the exhibit hall with the same exhibit booth and presence that you did in 2019. Consumer behaviors changed, and also the sentiment changed. People are excited about getting back together in person. It's going to be a truly like family reunion, celebratory experience, and you want to match that. And so you're going to want your in-person booth to be that welcoming, celebration. Hey, welcome back. We're so glad to see you environment. And there's multiple ways to do that, from the signs that you use and the way that they're designed, the items that you put out for display. That goes back to, if we need to talk about your audience, your specific goals, and we can start to craft, what should this look like when we're creating this booth and experience in person, and what activities should look like there. Same thing with the virtual booth. The virtual booths didn't work great, right? There were some good things, some bad things, but we need to reinvent how we do those and continue to improve that experience, because if you're going to leverage the benefit of a hybrid meeting, you need to reach that new virtual audience. That's the benefit you're getting. So these are just some photos from in-person, and the thoughts here is the sensory experience and the fun. Yes, we're a professional scientific society, but we're also a family. The wonderful thing about AOCS is how connected and close everyone is, and we have a lot of fun at the meeting. And so your booth experience should reflect that, especially in this return, is really celebrating. Welcome back. Let's interact. Of course, in a way that works for the way people want to touch and interact with other people during the pandemic. So lots of ideas here. I've seen lots of successes. So get in touch if you want to talk about it and see what ideas we can come up with for your very specific resources, scenarios, and goals. But I really encourage you to think about connection and fun for your in-person booth and interactive, because that's what people are missing with the virtual meetings, is that interaction. And so set yourself up for success by preparing your booth to offer a sensory experience. For the in-person, or I'm sorry, for the virtual, there are ways to make your virtual presence enticing as well. So going back to what we talked to before, 26% of the attendees were brand new to AOCS. And so these people are also probably brand new to you. And so you want to engage them so that you're leveraging your investment and hitting that in-person and virtual. This was something that I thought was really great that one of our virtual exhibitors did, is much like you get swag at an in-person meeting, they had swag that you could get if you visited their virtual booth. And this also, so you're interacting, you've given them a reason to visit your booth and to see your information. But then in order to get the swag, they have to give you their contact information. And it doesn't have to be a physical item like a t-shirt. It could be a gift card. It could be a download or a background. There's all kinds of things you can do here. One thing I really liked that this exhibitor did is when they collected the information in order to deliver the item, they did a little bit of market research. And so they're getting these leads, but they're also finding a little bit more about that person and about the market. And they did it in a really great way. They didn't ask too many questions. They asked just the right amount. And so you're also getting the benefit of getting a little bit of market research if you set it up this way. So I really liked this one. This is a great example. Now, in that virtual booth, and we talked about the platform where you can host those live streams. And again, you can do this with an iPad. Entice the virtual attendee to come to these events that you've scheduled or these demos that you've scheduled. And that can be, if you attend that live demo and you ask a question, boom, you're getting a gift card. Just start thinking about the ways, how can you entice people to come to that virtual booth or to visit you in that virtual space? And again, if you want to talk about specific ideas that work for you and your goals, we can do that. So the power of outreach. This is also going to be important. There's so much noise, there's so much distraction, both at the meeting and for the virtual audience with everything that's going on. How do you break through the noise? And so break through the noise by outreach and make sure that in advance of the meeting, you are telling people that you're going to be there. And not only are you telling them that you're going to be there, you're telling them why they should be excited that you're going to be there and why they need to come meet you, see you, visit your booth virtually or in person. I am going to show you some examples. Also start your plan for post-show. So have that ready before the meeting and really a strategic plan of this is my pre-show plan, this is my during show plan, and this is post. And remember that on-demand content that we talked about previously, what is the follow-up there? What's the follow-up after the show? How are you going to leverage everything that you've done? And again, just going back to something as simple as that one example where they provided a download for the on-demand presentation. That's a post-show follow-up for those attendees that find you later. So here's a few examples that I liked, or that I think is really good. And it is going to be centered around content again, because that's what people are looking for. And that's what, you know, is going to draw their attention. And so CalSec did a really great job of promoting their speaker. So if you do have people from your company presenting in the industry updates or in the technical program, reach out on social media, use the hashtags, put a picture of your person, right? People do business with people. Tell them what you're going to talk about and why they want to attend, as well as how to do that. You can also reach out to your clients or potential clients directly. Maybe they're not aware of the AOCS annual meeting, but they should be. And so this is you giving them helpful information and saying, hey, if you want to learn about this topic, we're going to be there. We'd love to see you. And this is what we're presenting on. And make that invitation. Invite them to experience the meeting with you, as well as the attendees there to come to your presentation. So really be your own champion here and get the information out about what you're doing. This is another, and this is an example of post-show. So that post-show follow-up is, wow, we had a great, presentation. It was really, it was about this. We met all these people. Here, come watch it, right? And again, I really liked how they did this post-show, really good picture of their subject matter expert. And again, people react, we're finding better to things like this. Here's another, and showing this because they're promoting in advance, right? They're going to be an exhibitor. You've got the information on the booth, but I really liked that they did this. And so this is in advance of the meeting is, hey, come meet us. There's a limited time offer, right? And so you're telling people why they need to visit you first. And you're also enticing. You're giving them that reason. Here's another and this is an older example, and this was done with an iPad at an in-person booth, and that's why I wanted to show it. So this was not highly produced, slick, very off the cuff live, and it was live, is do that in-person demo, show them your product, right? Talk to them and promote it on social media, and you can schedule it so that people know and say, we're going to do this at 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock. And you can also let the in-person attendees know that. So yes, you're doing this, it's going out virtually. But if you have even just a little easel sign by your booth, is see product in action or talk to subject matter expert, 2 o'clock Tuesday, whatever. You can get the in-person attendees there too. And I have seen that work where people show up at that time. I think some of that's a comfort level, is instead of doing that where they kind of cold approach your booth, they know there's going to be an activity. And so they're a lot more comfortable kind of, okay, well, I'll go watch, but then they interact. So I thought this was fantastic. And I want to show you again, this was the same thing. This was done with an iPad in an in-person booth. But I want to show you the staying power. 2 years after we did this, in 1 year, someone commented and said, because they found the content, I need to talk to you. And just so you know, we do watch these. And yes, these people were followed up with where the company representative was told, hey, right here. And we also provided the information to these people commenting. But 2 years later, right? People are commenting on a video taken with an iPad in an in-person booth. So it has great longevity, great return on investment, because it's not just what happens right at that moment. So call to actions. This is something I want to see a lot more of too. So when I see those posts that you're going to make on social media or emails that you're sending, to folks, or your program ads, inform ads, is use a call to action. Don't just tell them, show a picture of your product and be like, it's wonderful. What do you want them to do? Do you want them to download something? Do you want them to contact you? Do you want them to go look somewhere for more information? Make sure you use a call to action, and make sure it's a call to action that is likely to leverage that result. Here's a few examples. And I didn't get the laser pointer out, but in that top left, I love this one. I couldn't get the whole picture in there and have everything else, but it's actually a picture of the ad was a picture of their subject matter expert that had presented and his name. And it's like, come to the booth and ask Frank. We're in booth, 217. Frank's going to be here. And so that was that call to action, is reach out. I loved what Evonik did. Is they did an ad in the annual meeting program where they listed their presentations and their speakers. And so what they're doing is they're saying, we are subject matter experts. We are a trusted resource presented at this meeting. Come see us. And that was kind of this was also the booth 217, come meet Frank, was a program ad as well. And so you're telling that target audience that's going to be right there exactly, what you're doing, and really showcasing yourself as the expert, instead of just an ad like showing a product or service in your website. So really think about those call to actions and how you can craft them in order to have the audience take that step that you want them to take. I really think that doing the ads, if you do them right in the program guide, is a good investment if you do them right. I think that these people did a really good job. Again, we will help you if you're like, okay, I want to maximize my investment. I want to get that ad in the program, but you're saying I need to do the ad right. Let's talk, figure out what your goals are, what you're going to be doing at the meeting, and figure out what that ad and call to action is that will actually get you people at your booth. We also want to create multiple touch points. Earlier on, we were talking about how consumer behaviors changed, as well as how content consumption has changed. And so it can no longer be one thing or even two in the way that you're marketing yourself. We have to create a strategy and plan that has to involve multiple mediums and, in my opinion, be kind of a long-term comprehensive strategy to reach your goal. It would include what you're doing in the pre-event, what you're doing there on site, as well as what you want to do after the event. And so you have all of these opportunities. It's no longer you're just going to go set up the booth, right? And then it's over. In order to maximize and really make that impact is really preparing a plan. And we are here to support you in making and executing that event plan. And this is where I'm just going to show you a little bit about what I think the optimal type of plan is. Now, I'm saying this knowing that not everyone has this time or resources. I know that many of you, you are the subject matter expert and you're also doing your sales and marketing. You're busy, you wear many hats, and it may just not be something you can take on. So I'm going to give you like this Cadillac option if you had all these resources, but there's other ways to do this too. And there's always a solution to figure out how we can repurpose content, repurpose what you're already doing for the event or for your marketing, even elsewhere, like at other shows or other ads. How do we repurpose those and make these work so that you can get this longer term plan and goal, multiple touch point experience, but within what's comfortable for you and your resources? Because people are interacting differently. We can't just go back to, again, that show up, have a booth, meet those people, get those leads, follow up, get a sale. You're going to have a lot of people that are now shopping differently. I mean, think about how we shop. On a personal level, I do grocery pickup. That will probably remain a habit for the rest of my life. And I've never done that before. Same thing with the people that you're targeting. Their behavior patterns have changed personally. They've also changed professionally. And we are seeing that in the survey data, that the way that that consumer is wanting to interact with the companies in sales, a lot of it is traditional, some of it's not. And so we need to meet both of those needs. And the way to do that is to really think about your goal. And again, your goal for the year, your goal with the AOCS audience, but then your longer term goals for the growth of your company. And that's where we get specific, and we can help you kind of plot out what that looks like. In my ideal world, this is actually a year-long plan that includes your presence at the annual meeting. And throughout that year, we're getting you in multiple places in multiple ways, so that by the time that annual meeting rolls around, they know exactly who you are. And it will be, hey, John, I am so glad to finally meet you in person. You want to go grab a drink? Because they know you, you've become trusted, right? They want to meet you, they want to talk to you. There's several ways to do this, these kind of content plans. And again, don't get overwhelmed here. Cadillac option, but planning out something that looks at a whole year. And we're going to do, oh, there's going to be an ad in Inform, but it's going to be so that people can go download this white paper we made, or inviting them to a webinar that we're going to do, because that content is king, right? So you're using your ad, you're getting brand awareness because you have that ad out there, with your logo, your image. But your ad is marketing content. And then they're going to come to you later for that content, right? So you're getting even more out of that ad because there is a follow-up to it. And this is just, again, another listing of ideas of all these different ways that you can reach out to these people throughout that life cycle for your marketing plan. And again, the goal here is to really establish you as that resource subject matter expert, make you recognizable, as well as offer that brand awareness. Again, multiple opportunities. So many ways to do this with AOCS, as well as with your own networks as well. And it's a lot to think about, but we want you to be successful. Nothing makes AOCS happier is when I do hear from one of my exhibitors or presenters of 2 people contacted me and I made sales. That makes our day, because our companies too, it's the AOCS family. And when you're successful, we're successful, but also the member is successful as well, because they need your products and services and they need to be able to find out about them. And so by helping you make these connections, it really serves the society as a whole. So please let us help you if we can. And you can get in touch with me, you can get in touch with Ellen, you can get in touch with Clara. And we'll be here to go through any of these plans with you, brainstorm with you, support you as you are developing, your idea for the exhibit, or even your marketing plan for the year. And would just love to help you along the way and want to see you be successful. And that's what I had to go over. Again, it was very high level. I didn't get too specific because all of you have different needs and you're doing different products. And so that's where that individual help and reach out comes in. But I'm happy to have, or to answer any questions you have, or any discussion that you think would be helpful to you as you're preparing.
Thank you so much, Amy. I see a hand raised, so.
Yes, this is Lauro Mendoza from Tecno, from Brazil. I'm sorry, I got in this meeting a little bit late, so I did not get the beginning, but I have one question to Amy and Ellen. It seems that this pandemic is getting worse again. especially in United States. I heard yesterday on the news that more than 1 million people is being infected each day in America. So my concern is if this exhibition at the very beginning of May will really happen. In your opinion, what are the chances of this event really happen in May?
And I will say right now, we do believe the event will happen in May, we do. However, there's a lot we don't know, and just like you're saying, we're having this big spike now, but the hope is that it blows through and more immunities gained, and things that will be better come summer. So, but there could also be a new variant and we can't control that. So right now, we think May is a go. However, the health and safety of our attendees, of you, that's the most important thing. And so, if it isn't a go, we would of course convert to virtual. But if you have like specific concerns, like Ellen, can you talk to that about if the meeting changes, or what you've heard from like the board and program committee about the pandemic and having that in-person exhibit and event?
Yeah, so last I heard from the board, we were still full steam ahead. Same with the program committee. So, things do change pretty quickly, but these groups are still very much all in for a full, in-person component.
Does that help answer your question? Or, is there more?
Yes, of course. Yes, thank you very much. But I have additional question. In case, of course, nobody knows what will happen in the future, and my question is, if we make further investments on this meeting, like expenses with the booth and traveling expenses, hotels, etc., and then at the very last minute, this show is canceled. Is there any plan for uh, for to refund the cost, or what do you have in mind about that?
I can speak to that. So, as far as hotel, if you book through the block, there's a link direct from our website. There are special cancellations for our group. So I would definitely, recommend doing that rather than booking through a third-party vendor. Shepherd also has specific COVID-related cancellation terms within their service kit, and that will be available next week, I believe. So we can read through that and make sure that you're fully covered and comfortable before you place an order. Now, flights gets a little tricky. We don't have any control over what they're currently doing there. I know some airlines are being a lot more lenient and understanding because of COVID and traveling and things changing. But I also know that a lot of people are just holding off to book travel to the very last minute, and that might be your best bet, so you don't have to worry about anything with the airline.
Okay, and regarding AOCS fees and charges?
Yes, so we have a full cancellation policy. It began on page 2 of your signed exhibitor and sponsor agreement. So it talks in there about, if we were to cancel the in-person event for COVID or any other reason, and the different terms there. I don't have it in front of me, but it is all in writing in your signed agreement.
Okay, Ellen, I will read it. I'm sorry, I have not read it yet.
No
Thank you
problem.
very much.
And I'm happy. We can definitely talk offline too about specific cases. We want to make sure it works for everybody. So don't hesitate to let me know if you have any additional questions.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or things that y'all would like to discuss. That was actually really good because I know that concerns about what's going to happen is on everybody's mind and how that plays out. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything else. But of course, I know that it's a lot to digest and think about. So please reach out if you have those questions or concerns, or you want to go through and look at the cancellation policy, or you want to go through and say, what should my booth look like? Or, you know, what should my marketing plan look like? Reach out to us. That's what we're here to do. This was recorded. So for those of you that joined late, we can get you a link so that if you need to see that first part, you will have it available. So thank you again so much for joining us, and thank you for your support of AOCS. We do really appreciate, you know, all of your support and the way that you help us. I mean, without you, we couldn't put on these meetings, you know. So thank you so much, and please let us know how we can make you successful. All right. Take care, everybody.
Okay.
See ya in Atlanta.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Amy.